Welcome to another episode of React tutorial series. In this video, we're going to learn about React states of component. So for that, let me clear the mess I made in my last video. Alright, so this is one React component, a very simple component, also called a dumb component. Why dumb? Because it is not doing anything. It's getting some props and then it is just returning that. But what if you want to store some state in this component, making it a little bit smarter, right? So if you think of it in JavaScript way, this is just a function and function cannot store anything, right? In older React application, we used to use classes for the components, and in classes you can easily store any value, right? We can easily store some states. But in modern React, we use functions everywhere. We use function to create the component. Then how can we store some value inside a function? For that, React has given something called hooks. So we will learn about hooks in some other video, but in this video we're going to learn about a particular type of hook called useState. So the function that we're going to use here is called useState. It is from React. You can see in the first line that we are importing this useState function from React. UseState is used to store some state. Okay, as you know that this is a function, this is a simple function and it cannot store anything, so that's why we need some outside entity to store something, and React is providing this useState hook for that. UseState is a function. If we call this function, then this function will return. Okay, let's do something. Let's add some debugger and see what it is returning. Okay, I'll say constant useState return value. This is I'm doing just for testing it. Okay, let's disable the TypeScript checking for now. Now if I open the DevTools and see the debugger, and if I try to inspect this useState return value, you can see that it is returning two things. It is returning an array and it has two items. One is a function, another one is just one value undefined. And as we have two elements in the array, why not extract them in some variables? Destructure this array, extract the items. So the first item is state and the second item is a function, and that is setState. So see how it works. So the state is the container that we get from this useState, and that will store our state. Okay, and setState is a function that will be used to set the state. Okay, if you want to change the state, okay, then we can use this setState function. And what will be the initial value of the state, that we can pass here in this function. I'll just write one string initial state, and let's print that state is state. Now the compiler is throwing error that state is declared but not used. So let's disable this now. Now if I refresh the page, you can see state is initial state. So what is happening here? So how is this working? This useState will always return the state. So if we render this function, if we call this component multiple times, then also React will keep that state in the memory and it will always return that particular state. Now let's explore the setState function, right? So for that, I'm going to add some button here. Okay, let's say click me, and on click of the button, I'm going to call this setState function, and I'm going to set a new value that is updated state. So what is happening here? We have one button called click me. If I click the button, we are changing the state to updated state. So this is how we use the state in any component. We use this one line to create one state, and if we use this useState, we get two values. One is state and another is setState. We can use that to add the state. Now what if you want to use two different states? You can simply write this line twice, and definitely you need to use another constant. We can call it, so this is user, right? We can add some state called age and set age, and the initial value will be 30. In this way we can have two different states in our component. Now, do you think these two lines are a little weird? See, we are calling this use state without any information about the state name. We're just calling the use state with some value, and then we're getting that state and we're storing that in one variable, or in this case it's constant. And then again for the next state we're calling the same function again. Then how React is tracking those states? That is a real question, right? What is going on here? Well, actually React is checking the order of the calls. That means we're calling set state at first, and we're storing the value initial state, and then React will store that initial state string in some state, and then again second time when we're calling this useState function with the value 30, React is assigning a different state. Okay, and it is just the order of the calls, and that means we cannot call these useState functions conditionally, or we cannot change the order. Like first time we are calling this line number 7 first, and then second time we are calling the line number 8 first. You cannot do that. You cannot change the order of the use state calls, because the order is the only way React can identify that okay, the first use state call is for the state and the second use state call is for the age. Okay, this is how React is tracking the states. And that's why always remember, do not call useState inside some conditions or inside some loops, because React will not be able to track the states if you do that. So if you just write if condition, then inside the condition you use this useState, never do that. Okay, so if you want to add some state in your component, then just add useState in the first lines. In the first few lines you have to add it, because if you don't write in the first few lines, then definitely your component will have some logics, some conditions, and inside any conditions you cannot write states. So remember that. That is also true for any other hooks, but we'll learn about the hooks later. But for now, just experiment with the states. All right, let's play with this age now. Instead of updating the state, we're going to update the age. Okay, and let's write age is age, and on click of the button, let's increment the age by 1. Instead of click me, let's call it increment age. What is the error now? Okay, I have to call set age. Now if I click on this increment age, you can see that the age is increasing. But actually this is not how you should update the state. If your next state is depending on the same previous state, like here our next age is going to be dependent on our existing age, then you should not write you should not increment the age like this. The reason is that you can call this setter function, you can call this set state, or like here set age function multiple times, and React will batch those calls and it will only execute once. So that's why if your next state is depending on the previous state, then there will be some problems. So what you should do here is, instead of incrementing it directly, you pass one function here. Okay, and this in this function you get the previous state, and then you return the next state. So previous plus 1. Let's check if it is working. It is working fine. So why did I do that actually? Let's revert the code and see what can go wrong. So suppose I want to increment it by 2, and I'm calling the set age twice. Now here is the problem. Increment age by 2. Here is the problem. Okay, if I click on this button, increment age by 2, you can see it is not working. Even though I am setting the age twice, it is not working. Why that is happening? So the thing is, when you call the set age first time, then the age is actually not changing. Because think of it, how the age will change, because age is just a constant here. While this function is running, you cannot update the variable age, right? Because this is a constant. So what React will do is React will batch all the setter calls, and then it will execute it only once. And that's why even though I'm calling it twice, it is not incrementing by 2, it is incrementing by 1 only. And that is why if your next state is depending on your previous state, you should always use a function instead of a value. So what we should do here, we should add a function here, previous state, then return previous state plus 1. Now let's see if it is working or not. If I click on this button, it is working now. So this is one thing you should remember while writing states. Okay, what else you need to know about states? Yeah, so if you're using TypeScript, you can add some types in your state also. That is one thing you should know. So useState in TypeScript is a generic. That means you can add your type here. So in our first case, line number 6, this state is a string, and in our second state, that is age, that is a number. And if I do that, for example, in the second state, age and useState is a number, then we cannot add any string here. This will throw errors. And if you have any complex type, then also you can create one interface and you can add that here. And if you're not adding this type, then also TypeScript will infer the type from the value that you're passing. So suppose I'm removing this number type, then also this setAge function that will contain number type. But yeah, if you're writing TypeScript, then you should always write types also. So I hope you learned something in this video. If you have any questions, any type of questions related to state, please let me know in the comment section and I will try to answer them. And if you like this video, please hit like, and also you can subscribe to this channel for more React and JavaScript tutorials. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.